Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel, on this beautiful day. How you guys and girls doing? Hope you're doing great as always. Please check out the description box for all the nice links. Also drop a like, subscribe if you likes the content. So here we are. We're going to keep working with this little mini series with the game 1. So what I did was I actually created a little PowerPoint just so you guys know kind of what you're looking for. So the type of game I want to make for this mini series right now, game 1, is just a very simple game where we go through how to create the window, which we already did, the game class, which we're going to do now, the game loop, which we also kind of touched upon because it contains the update and rendering, just like I showed you. And just remember one thing, promise me this, okay guys? I just really want to say that all of this isn't at all as hard as you might think it is, all right? Because a lot of you might come into this and be all like, you know, if you're totally new, if you've done this before, you're just here for the fun of it, you know how to do it, obviously you're going to know what to do. But it's a key point I want to tell you guys when it comes to learning something new, is that nobody knows how to do something from the start, all right? So for those of you who this applies to, just remember, the only way you're going to learn is by doing, okay? And the more you look at stuff, the more your brain's going to start digesting stuff. Because sometimes something might seem completely weird, and the next morning you wake up, you understand it. That's because you had time to connect dots and understand things, okay? Just remember that throughout all this learning process, okay? Throughout all my series, throughout everything, just remember that. Just give it time. Just watch it once or twice. Try it yourself. Try to understand how things work, and I'll explain it as well as I can. So all the things I'm saying now, just take it with a pinch of salt, okay? So there you go, update and rendering, creating shapes, basically just creating rectangles and boxes, whatever. We're going to move them. We're going to check their positions and everything to show you that they're saving their own positions at all times. Getting mouse positions, so you always have access to your mouse position and inputs. Getting keyboard inputs, we already touched on that when we pressed the escape to close the game window. Also removing shapes. So pretty much we're going to go through these things. Hopefully I don't miss out on any of this, but that's going to be when the game is finished. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say game 1 in the title bar, just so I remember. And I'll increase this. If you want, you can increase it. I think most of us have 1080p monitors, but let's keep it at 800, 600, something like that. And just run this, just see if the window is good enough for you, big enough. It's not really a good way of doing stuff, but there you go. All right, so that's a nice window. There are ways to make a game kind of very dynamic, so it doesn't matter what window size you have and everything, the game will still stay the same, but we haven't really gone into that yet. So the way we're going to do it, we're going to have a fixed window size where everything is just going to stay the same. So we're going to keep this size, and now we're going to put everything into a game class. So what I mean by that is very simple. The structure is always going to be the same. We're still going to have a game loop. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to create a new class, okay? And we're going to call it game. I'm just going to call it game. And virtual destructor if you want, there you go. But we're not going to inherit anything from this, but still, I'll do that. And for those of you on Linux, there is a video on my channel which says kind of how to build stuff and do stuff on Linux. And those of you using code blocks as well, there's a little difference in code sometimes. I'm going to try to keep it as non-Visual Studio as possible. If you want this to work in code blocks, you're going to have to activate C++ 14 and stuff. So just YouTube that, how to activate that on code blocks. I have a video on it. Like I said, it might not be the best, but still. But what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to use Pragma once. I'm going to use it. But what you want to do if and def, you know, just the regular C++ stuff. If and def game h define. I'll write it once for you so you guys know. And if. So this is the way you do it. Now, this isn't a C++ tutorial, so I won't say what this does exactly. Basically, it makes sure that this doesn't get included twice. But this is how you want to do it in code blocks, okay? I'm just going to use Pragma once. In code blocks, if you don't use Pragma once, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, once you do that, then we're going to make a private section here in game. And the next step is going to be to just comment some stuff, okay? I'm just going to comment stuff, keep stuff organized. Constructors and destructors. Okay, always comment your stuff. Okay, it's not just because your teacher says so, it's because when you look at stuff later on, life's gonna be a lot easier. All right, so we're gonna keep that. Now you're gonna create a void update function and a void render function. Just keep these empty for now. Okay, you just want to do that. And there you go. Now we're gonna comment inside the function, so we're not gonna bother here. What I'm gonna do is make a little comment here. You can make this as professional or non-professional as you want. I'm just gonna keep it simple. Class that acts as the game engine, something like that, like wrapper class or something. Class for all the functions, functionality, everything. You can write whatever you want here. Once you understand what it does, write your own little comments. Make sure you know that what's going on. Okay, so there you go. That's that. Here's the constructors and everything. I'm just gonna say functions here, and we're gonna define the functions. So the way I do it is control dot on Visual Studio, control period, and then you get that little box and you can auto define stuff. You just click that and you're here. So the update function was created for us. But you can create it manually if you want, doesn't matter. I just do this because it's a little easier. So I'm gonna do that. Now I have my update and render here. So what it's gonna do, this is gonna update the game logic. So when I move my dude, all keyboard inputs, everything's gonna go in here. Everything that doesn't have to do with drawing, but has to do with the behind logic, like behind the scenes. Rendering is just visualizing all the positions, all the points and everything. It's just putting out some pixels on the screen. That's all rendering is. Update is where the game's at. Okay, so you go, and you can kind of just try to think of that in different analogies. Like if you just close your eyes, you're not rendering anything, but you're still alive, right? You're still in the world. You can still move around. That's what's happening in update. Rendering is just opening your eyes. You're seeing where everything is. You're seeing what stuff is, right? A visual representation of all the maths and points, basically. So that's a quick little tutorial on that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a little structure here. In private, I'm gonna say private functions, because some functions you don't want to access. For example, this one, the one we're gonna be using today, it's gonna be a void initialize variables. Okay, that's one. And then we're gonna have one more, void initialize, I think it's with this, we'll just call it init window. Okay, we'll call this init as well, just to make it a little easier to write. So I'm going to define both of these. I'm going to watch a tutorial on how to properly use Visual Studio as well. So don't worry, I'll find all the keyboard shortcuts. I just forgot them right now. Constructors. I think I spelled that correctly. Constructors. And it might be a pain commenting and everything, but you know, it's worth it. Private functions. Okay, so there you go. Once you have that ready, we're going to start moving stuff over. So step number 1 is going to be to move all of these includes, control X those, and we're going to move them into game.h. I'm just going to put them right here. Oh no, I should put them above here. And we're going to do something later on in the series. I do that in my other series. It's called pre-compiled headers, where you want to include stuff like this, and it makes includes a lot faster because these files have a lot of code in them, and you include them every time. It's going to slow your compilation times down quite a bit. So we're going to talk about that later. It's not important right now. But if you're making a big game, just remember that there's something called pre-compiled headers. Okay, you can look it up for now if you want. So there you go. Okay, there we go. I think it was an IntelliSense error, but that worked. Okay. Once you get that going, next step is going to be to bring the window in. So I'm going to go in here into my game.h, and I'm going to say variables, and then window, and I'm going to say SF render window. Okay. But this is not going to be a regular window. It's going to be a window pointer. Okay. And I know you're like, oh shit, what's going on? Oh my God. Don't worry. We'll get into it. Okay, we'll get into it. But just copy this All right, just copy that and just keep it like it is here. I'm going to say this window equals null pointer. You don't have to do this, but this is good. It's always good to initialize your variables. So I'm just going to put that into a null pointer. And then we're going to create another SF event EV. I'm still going to call it EV, but I'm not going to make this a pointer because we don't need to make that a pointer. And we don't need to initialize it because it has a default initialization. What I did with window is that we want to be able to delete this window when we want. That's why we're going to dynamically allocate it. Okay, if you don't know that much C++, you don't have to worry about it. Just copy what I'm doing and try to understand. So it's basically not set. Okay, it's just a pointer. It's nothing right now. It's just there. And I want to create a new window in this. So I'm going to say this window equals new SF render window. I'm going to paste everything I had in my main file. And don't forget the final. No, there we go. Okay, don't forget that. So the beautiful thing here is we could actually do this. SF video mode. Just create a little video mode here. Okay. Video mode. And we'll create this right here. All right. And then if we go into game.cpp, in init window, this video mode equals, or here, you can set the height to 800, to what was it, 600, and this video mode dot width equals 800. Okay, and we can just, instead of using a temporary one here, we can use our classes variable, this video mode. So we're going to use our own, and we can change this and we can do stuff with it. So we can use this later to kind of see how big our window is if we want, if we don't want to directly use the window. So that's a good way to save it. And for those of you with a keen eye, you probably saw this video mode dot get desktop mode. Okay, now that's a way for the video mode to get your desktop's current resolution. You can do that if you want, and just set that here. But we're gonna do this custom. All right, we're gonna get into all that stuff later when we know how to kind of make the game more dynamic. So once you do that, your window should be created. Before we go anywhere, I'm gonna do this window here, and I'm gonna delete it before I forget, because otherwise you're going to get a big memory leak. So make sure you delete it in games destructor here. Just 100% make sure you do that. And in the constructor, as you see these two functions, we need to call these for stuff to happen. So this init variables, this init window. Make sure it's in this order, because remember, in variables we set it to null pointer. You don't want that to happen after you create the window. So make sure you put it in after. Okay? And once that's done, once you have done this, your window should be able to create once you make a game object. So we're just going to remove all this here. Init game engine, something like that. And then we're going to create a new game object, game, like that. Okay. Good. Very nice. So that was step one. Now we actually create a game. Now we can't check all of this stuff here. All right. We can't really do that here. So we're going to have to do that from game. And the way I like to do it is, I like to keep the loop outside. Okay, in main. I like to keep the loop here. So we're not going to do a loop in here. We're going to keep the while loop in main. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a accessors. Or we can put it under functions. Here we go. Or no, you know what? This is good. Okay. Let me just make sure I got my... Kind of lost myself there. Sorry about that. Accessors. Okay, so here we go. What we're going to do is a const boolean. Okay. Get window is open. Like that. Very simple. All right. And just define that. And And there you go. Now you can call this something else if you want. You can call this running to make it easier. Running. So while the window's open, it's running. Okay? That's a little easier for you to understand maybe. So return this window get is open. There you go. Is open. So it's just going to return this Boolean for us. See, that's a Boolean. It's going to return a Boolean for us. Defined in here. Under accessors. And once that's done, we can call that out here. So what I'm going to do while here is going to do, or just game dot, no, what am I doing? Wrong while loop. I'm going to leave that empty. Here, game dot get, oh, sorry, don't do that. There you go. Game dot get, no, running, I call it. So there you go. So the while loop is gonna kind of be dependent on game running. Okay. Now we're gonna do the event polling and stuff, and that we're gonna do inside of game itself. So what we'll do out here is just the update and the render, and then this will remove that. We'll remove all of this. See, it's totally empty now. So we're just gonna do game dot update. Game.render. If you want, you can do the while loop in game. You know, I just like to have it out here because it makes it a little easier instead of just doing game and then game run. At least you have something out here, and makes it a little easier here, so you don't have to deal with loops and stuff. You know, makes the logic a little easier to grasp. So hopefully you're following me up until now. What I did was I just removed everything from here. So the next step is going to be to poll the window event. So I just copied that. Pasted it in here, event polling. Okay. Now, since we're all about the modular stuff, we're going to do this. We're going to create another function, void update events. Okay. Or we'll call it poll events, so you don't forget the name, poll events. And then just define that function for us. Go to the function, and you'll see it here. Perfect. Put functions above. Okay, so we're going to do all that stuff in poll events. But the danger with dividing it up like this, that is that we might forget to call it in here. So before you forget, make sure you call it poll events. Just make sure you call that there. Okay? So while this window, since that's our window in the class, right? Poll event. Now we created our own event as well, or our own event variable that will keep track of everything. So we just write it like this. And I use this a lot because I like using this in C++. You don't have to, but it makes it easier to see what is part of the class and what's not. Okay. So here we go. This ev dot type. We're going to use the same type of switch. Case event closed. And I'm just going to say this window close. And it's a pointer, so you need to do the arrow. This ev key code. This window close. Okay, so that's our events polling right now. And then we're going to do the whole window clear thing. So window clear, exactly the same way as you learned in the last one. We're going to do a custom color this time. Color, let's say red. So 0, 0, and then 255. Remember, RGB alpha. Okay, alpha is the transparency channel. So remember, always clear the window first and then display it. So this window display. And we have nothing to draw yet, so but we'll draw our game in here. Draw game. Okay, good. And I won't comment stuff in this video, but in the next video I might. But what you want to do is you just want to make a little block comment like this. For example, in this function, let me just show you one. Something like this, and you just say renders the game objects. Okay, and you can write the steps if you want. Clear old frame, render new objects, or just render all objects, render objects, display frame in window. So that's kind of the steps, And this is just a kind of general thing. And then you could give it the type as well. Return void, so it's no void. You could give it the input parameters as well if you want, if you had any. So kind of just make these nice comment blocks where you explain the function. All right, so here we go. Pretty much done. Game.h. Everything is divided up into parts. Make sure you call everything. Don't forget to erase the window as well. And yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is. So let's just run this. Hopefully we'll get a blue window opening and rendering. Okay, or a red window. So we got our red window. Escape button works. And probably the close button works as well. So that was the game class, guys and girls. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know it was a little slow and a long video, but I just want to make sure that was finished before the next video, the next part where we're going to be rendering shapes, moving the shapes, clicking on them and stuff like that. So in 1 or 2 more videos, the game should be finished. And in the next game after that, we'll probably talk about textures and making stuff happen that's a little more complicated. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section below. Also drop a like, subscribe if you like the content. Check out my Patreon link. Do all that stuff if you can. If you don't want to, it's all good. Just keep watching if you want and keep learning, okay? Good luck. I'll see you guys and girls in the next one.